everybody. If the previous video was any indication, I have received a Vision Pro. I didn't know until I bought this, which would happen after buying something so expensive, that sometimes banks will prohibit you from spending too much money immediately. And they don't notify you that they've done it. You have to manually call them, find out yourself that it's happened, and then you're left with no choice but to try to spend the next couple hours amending the situation to a level that could have been figured out way earlier if I just had known what to do. It was very cold in the UPS truck, no less, in almost -degree weather, which is what we're in right now in almost December of 2025. So it needed to be wiped down before I could use it properly, before it would work with anything at all. And even so, I still have some problems scanning my face for stuff that needs to be required. I wanted to add that too. It is a feature you can have your eyes scanned to purchase apps. It does sound dystopian, but in my opinion, it's a little better than just Face ID, because people were always worried they could print a picture of your face. But I think it takes a lot of effort to a point that you should be worried about somebody who would try to take a picture of your eye and use it to scan for the Vision Pro. It's kind of almost foolproof to the point where you can't really do that. But tell you what, if I start seeing some news reports that people's eyes have been stolen for the Vision Pro authentication systems, then I'll be worried. Setting it up, aside from that little having to wipe the screen down because it was so cold and wet from the weather, the ice, the snow, it actually worked out very well. As of recording this, I've only used it for about 30 minutes or less, and I've actually already figured out how to capture a video on there. As I remember correctly, the original M2 model could not capture more than 1080p video. You could use a developer tool to capture 4K video, but it would only work for about 30 seconds at a time, and then have to cool down after that because it would get really hot. Now I have the M5 model, so I don't know if that's still a thing that happens, or if I want to try pushing the limit again with Xcode or something like that. But I don't know. I don't want to try right now. I just bought the thing, so I'm not feeling it right now. That being said, here's a video I captured on the Vision Pro with some stuff censored for privacy, but so it'll be cropped a little bit. But here it is. About 1 second. Go. All right, everybody. This is my Vision Pro. First time using a capture button. Surprisingly easy to maintain. Couple minor setbacks, but they were fixed very easily once I recognized what the problem was. I guess that's any problem, but never mind. I'm good. Pretty interesting, actually, and I like that there's a format change you can do in Vision Pros where you can change it to be either a small picture or an immersive thing. It's not quite the same as the environments. Those require really special cameras that cost way too much money, or maybe just a GoPro Max or something. I have yet to try putting GoPro Max videos on my Vision Pro. I do have a GoPro Max. I purchased it just a couple months ago, in fact, because it was half off. So that's great. Then I remembered why it was half off, because there's a new one coming. In fact, it came like a month after I purchased it. Not even. So as y'all might expect, this will be mostly a blind review. I'm doing all the stuff I'm reviewing on the fly. I'm going to start with the core features that Apple announced initially in 2023 for the Vision Pro. Not just talking about its looks, but also what it does, or what it's supposed to do, and versus what it actually does. You know, my usage versus their expectation. So here we go.
Why does it cost $19 to use a polishing cloth?
The very first thing they showed off with the Vision Pro, apart from its own design, is one of its most definitive features, dubbed EyeSight. Okay, Apple. Here's what it really looks like. Well, it looks like nothing, as I'm told it's not for the user to see. It's more something other people see so they know you're busy. No, GoPro Max videos do not work the way they're supposed to, so I bought, yes, bought, because somehow I could afford it after this, a $3 app called Spatialify for the iPhone. I believe it has Android support for Xreal users, but cannot confirm. And yes, that polishing cloth does cost $19 separately. Thankfully for me, it was not separate. Whether you have used a VR headset before or not, the first time ever using the hand to eye interface will take some time getting used to. As said before, there is an Optic ID setting that did not work for me, so I could thankfully erase it and just use a basic passcode. Spatial videos and photos are a very interesting concept, but I think they're hard to explain to people that don't really know the word spatial, like I didn't before this announcement. If you remember those 3D pictures that have been around since the 80s, that you could wear glasses, or maybe not, and just move around and the picture would also move around with you, this is an extension of that for spatial photos and videos. You can move around and the video will move around with you as opposed to, say, a FaceTime conference on your phone, where the phone will just stay where it is. As I say this, I don't know if the spatial video is supported for iPhones, although I know they can take spatial video. I don't know if you can move your phone around and see the persona move with you, especially as I cannot call myself. One overlooked feature I noticed is panoramas. What is overlooked is not the mere functionality of panoramas being viewed in Vision Pro with the ability to expand the view of them to be nearly 180 degrees. Rather, I think it's interesting of note that they can be converted to spatial photos. Even without Spatialify, sometimes you can convert your own pictures on iPhone, taken non spatially, and convert them to spatial photos. If you watched the presentation in June 2023, you may have found a folder that said compatible apps, implying that not every app would be compatible with Vision Pro. While this is correct, it's almost been made some sort of standard since the announcement of the Vision Pro that every app ever made has to be compatible with Vision Pro in some way, shape, or form. Almost everywhere you'll go, you'll see an app that says, you might not have a Vision Pro, but you can use this on one, even if it's the old model. Yes, as you may have noticed, compatibility between the 3 releases of Vision OS so far has not been a huge issue. Very few, if any, features are required to be seen in Vision OS 26 that cannot be seen with the first 2 releases of Vision OS. Another highlight is when you are talking to people. There are several elements of this, so let me try to cover each one. First, the people around you. They can be scaled to be larger than real people. I think this is important to note because not everyone is going to know that this is possible. They're just going to assume, upon buying this, I feel, that you can only scale people to be about the size of a person or less. But no, you can scale them to be at least 1.5 times the size of an average human being. And having my first FaceTime call with somebody this large has had a massive impact on the way I call people now, even if I've only done it 2 or 3 times. Furthermore, it's worth noting you can only do this with people that have iPhones, as with other iPhones, having green text bubbles for anyone who doesn't have an iPhone. You also cannot use Vision Pro to FaceTime people with an Android, even though FaceTime is available for the web. Theoretically, should be working for Android users. Second, and most importantly, you. What do you look like to other people on Vision Pro? If you thought you couldn't tell because I mentioned that eyesight was impossible to see by yourself, think again. You about 80% of the time have a little window to the bottom right in every FaceTime call that shows your persona. I'm glad Apple did not come up with a fancy term for that. It is just called a persona. It's a little rigorous to have to create a persona and possibly have to redo it in case you screwed it up once or twice, like I did. But it looks really cool and progressive for technology. Granted, it's not without flaws. My persona, for instance, looks like it always has its right eyebrow raised a little bit and is constantly looking to the right. I later found out it was only looking to the right so much because I was constantly looking at my own persona and not at the person in front of me. When I look to the person in front of me, it looks correct, but my eyebrow is still way too far up. Another thing I want to note real quick is that your persona also looks like it's floating around. This is not necessarily a problem for me, but it might be a problem for some people who want to at least look like they're real to other people. But no, your persona does look real as long as you don't look down and see that it's got some haunter like elements where the hands are completely detached. Apparently, it looked so creepy upon initial release, they had to update the personas a month into it. And I don't blame you for updating them, Apple, but they still look creepy. What the hell is that?
The first time I tried Apple Vision Pro, the thing that struck me the most was
How much money I can make off of it. Now buy a Disney Plus subscription now. Yeah, this one's going to be a little more brief than I thought. There aren't many environments. I was expecting Wally's truck, I was expecting Wall-E to be a 3D movie, which, I mean, I was only saying that because Finding Nemo is, and The Incredibles 2 is, and Luca is. A lot of Pixar movies are, a few of them are at least, but not that one. I don't know, man. But that doesn't really bring me down that much. What brings me down is the movies that are in 3D. There are about 30 of them so far, 30 to 50. That's pretty good. But they don't exactly feel much more than just glasses-free 3D that you see nowadays. Now, that may have been very brief. I assure you, the other apps we're about to cover are not going to be as sad in terms of features we wanted and features we got. There were at least 5 Vision Pro exclusive apps. 2 of them were free, 2 of them were free with in-app purchases, and one was $50. So for all intents and purposes, because I just bought something for a shitload of money, I'm gonna skip this one. I imagine most people who aren't in college or medical school don't want to know about the heart much anyway. Let me give you the rundown on this. The thing about these apps is not that there's a lack of them like Marquez Brownlee said. Or at least it's not just that. The problem really is that Apple and other companies that invest in the Vision Pro notice that you already paid a lot of money for this Vision Pro, and they naturally think, well, why not spend a little more money then? That's why they've released a stylus that costs as much as an actual Apple Pencil. And DJ for the Vision Pro, which is a music mixing app that kicks ass. Is actually $100 a year behind pro features. And Jigspace is actually just an app for other apps to communicate with, and not really an app in and of itself. It's just a developer kit. So far, Vision Pro is looking a little bit less like an actual device, and more like a proof of concept. A proof of concept that has existed for about as long as there has been superior VR experiences. And when I say superior VR experiences, I just mean modern VR. I don't mean to say that VR is perfect as is right now. It is not. It's not even maybe a quarter of the way there, if we're talking about resolution at least. But it's a great step in progress. I hope the Vision Pro can inspire many more to come for the next few years at least. Or if it's going to be replaced by a pair of glasses in about 2 years, I hope the glasses can do relatively the same thing with the same amount of impact. And if not, what the hell are we doing? I wanted to make this all one video, but it's already about 1 or 2 days past when I said I was going to upload this, and I don't want to delay this anymore. So I'll do a part 2 talking about more apps and my experiences with them in a later video. For now, I think the Vision Pro is a great proof of concept so far, but I need more proof that it's going to last me more than a few days of interactivity. Which, if it does only last that long, it'd be highly disappointing to me as a consumer and not a developer for it.